We have a lot to get to today, especially with our first guest.
So happy to have him on.
I mean, a dear friend.
Yeah.
Right?
You said it like you didn't believe it.
You said it like you didn't even think it was a possibility.
No, I mean, does he like us? Who knows?
No, writer for The Athletic. I mean, he's covered American soccer for years in a lot of different publications.
This is the guy.
This is the guy. When it comes to this is how I always introduce Paul. I say, the Adam Schefter of soccer.
Right. This is how I introduce Paul. I say, yo, when GMs get hired, they reach out to him and go, yo, what are we supposed to do with all this tan?
That's basically it. So please introduce our guest, Alexis.
So you've already said it, writer for The Athletic. One of our favorite people in MLS soccer. Unless you're driving, put your hands together for the one, the only, Paul Tenorio!
Hey, Paul. How's it going, man?
What's up, fellas? I appreciate that introduction. I mean, how can I can't even top that. I can't even introduce myself that well.
Buddy, your presence enough.
Just put your resume to to camera, okay? So everybody knows.
You got one of those resumes that folds out.
Yeah, so let's start by just introducing you to people who may not know who you are. You do write for The Athletic, but what do you do, Paul?
Yeah, what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, I try to cover American soccer in totality. So everything from Major League Soccer to the U.S. national team, USL and the lower divisions. And, I try to keep my fingers on the pulse of what's happening in the transfer windows and all the MLS rules, TAM, GAM, and discovery lists, all that garbage. And then, try to tell good stories as well. So most people like the TAM and GAM stuff more than the stories. So I just try to do as much of that as I can.
We're like little raccoons rifling through that little trash.
Yeah,
okay?
man, we're going through all that trash. We got diseases, Paul.
We want How does that, I'm curious about just your doing this particular job, because there really aren't many people on the planet that have the knowledge that you do, whether you want it or not. There aren't many people that are aware of American soccer and aware of especially MLS in particular to the degree that you do. What is it like being you? Everyone reaching out to you. I'm sure there's so many people.
Like MLS omnipotence.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been a life goal to be like an expert in things that no one else cares about or knows about. You know who the best is like, unfortunately, like my father-in-law reads my stuff on The Athletic, and I just feel so bad for him trying to sort through that stuff. I mean, it's been interesting because what it does is it changes conversations with general managers and coaches and sources, because I am able to understand some of the stuff that they work with day to day, and that's really helped me to cover the league in a way that not a lot of people cover it. If you cover Major League Baseball or the NBA or NFL, you can go and look at all the available contract information. Everything's out there. It's pretty clear how teams put rosters together, and we see that coverage all over the place. And MLS, not all that information is out there. The rules are convoluted, and so it's a little bit more difficult to go in depth into how rosters are built, how teams are put together. And, that's kind of my forte. So in a way, it's allowed me to become one of the top reporters covering MLS, because I'm able to get into those conversations with GMs and understand their mindset and their thinking behind pretty much every roster rule or trade. And so that's been a really useful tool for me. And then what I've learned is actually there are a lot of people who love, kind of the idea of learning roster rules, how to put a team together. I mean, it's what we've seen with all the different games that have come out around soccer, and being a general manager. It's the same audience that's existing with all the analytics people in baseball that's kind of built out of the readership there as well. So it's kind of worked out nicely that I happen to love like the dorkiest side of an already dorky beat.
It's like those GMs are like the people who play Dungeons and Dragons. You know what I mean? They like build their own world. Like, you can't do that. You're a pawn or whatever. And like now they're perfect
and
for
I'm on the
capologists.
outside, like taking notes about the Dungeon and Dragons movie. You know what I mean?
You're like, oh, Steve did this with a 16-sided die.
Could you theoretically run a team? Or I don't know, maybe even put together a team, or maybe be a team president? Could you understand the financials of how players are paid? Do you think you could actually run a team?
I think that, I feel confident that I could step into a
Keep
front
in mind
office.
Colorado last year, so go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, look, the real thing, I mean, everyone that looks around the league knows that, there are some people who have jobs that aren't very good at their jobs building rosters. I think I could step into a front office and help. The problem is, I know as much as I can know publicly, but there's a lot of stuff MLS keeps behind the scenes that I don't know about. So I think it would be difficult for anyone to step in right away and just know the rules. I mean, we've seen that with some of these foreign GMs that have come in who have been very successful in Europe, and it takes them a year or two to kind of figure out what to do. But yeah, I mean, I think I have confidence that I could step into a front office and be successful. But that's all just like, I'm sure if a GM heard me say that right now, they're probably kicking back in their chair laughing about it, because you only know what you know. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
But it is insane that you're like on the cutting edge and on the cusp of all this information. Like when new information comes out, like a youth transfer fund, like when that was rumored, I don't even know if that went through. Every time something like that comes out, are you like, get going, and I got to know about this too?
Yeah, luckily I find out about it before it happens, like the youth transfer fund, which they ended up killing because of the CBA. They didn't want to introduce a new pot of money before these current CBA negotiations that are happening. But yeah, you're just like, how the heck? Why are we adding more things to learn? But you know what? I get some relief in the sense that like GMs say that to me too. Like they're not like cheering for the youth transfer fund and for new rules to come in. They're like, oh man, I got to learn this new thing. I got to learn how to this allocation money.
Well, you're adding another algebra problem to you're already difficult job.
Get the kid from Goodwill Hunting. We can't do this. We got more with Paul when we get back. That's right, baby. We are back. We're here with Paul Tenorio of The Athletic. Paul, you mentioned the CBA just before. Apparently there's an extension now. Talks were that they were supposed to have either figured it out or maybe a strike January 31st. Obviously, that didn't happen. What could you tell us about where it is now? What do you expect to see? Is the single entity gone? What's happening, Paul?
No, single entity is not gone as much as some people might want it to be gone. No, I think talks have been positive overall, compared to the last CBA negotiations in 2015 that I felt were really tenuous all the way till 48 hours before the first game of that season. It felt like there was going to be a strike. There actually was a vote to strike. And then they were able to use an government arbitrator to avoid that strike. This time around, I haven't heard anything beyond the prepared to strike. Talks haven't been that negative or pessimistic to this point. I think there's a belief that they're pretty close on some key issues. Now, I don't know how much things are going to change drastically within the salary cap structure. I don't really anticipate that happening. And a big part of the reason why is the players aren't really pushing for that right now. I think players really want change in player rights, movement, free agency, an expansion of, kind of basic insurance and things like that, as well as, I think an ability to, different types of player movement. So there's the free agency side of it where they want that to expand. Right now it's 28 and 8. They want to move that down somewhere. They want to kind of get rid of the leverage that teams have with contracts where you can make bona fide offers and hold on to player rights in perpetuity. Those types of things are much more important. Increase in the senior minimum salary and the reserve minimum salary. We saw that go up significantly in the last CBA. So those are the things the players are focused on. And as a result, I'm not anticipating huge changes in the way the league operates its salary cap.
How, as far as, especially when it comes to salaries and when it comes to how much owners are investing into their roster, right? It feels like this CBA negotiation feels a little different than definitely the last one, given the expansion fees, right? We see how much the league is bringing in with
and
these,
how valuable the teams are now.
Yeah, we see how much money is coming in. So MLS can't use the same excuse of like we're not profitable, right? Like I know there was just an article Felipe Cardenas released it, I think either this morning or yesterday, about how Arthur Blank was just saying like, hey, no, we're doing pretty good.
He's like, we all making money, baby.
we're all crushing it. So it feels like that the players have a little bit more leverage than before. Do you get that sense at all?
Yeah, I think Blink's comments to Felipe certainly didn't help the cause of the league in these negotiations. I'm sure he got a call from Don Garber, but yeah, I think the players are definitely aware. I mean, the league hands over its financials to the players as part of these negotiations. So they're definitely aware of what the league has and how much money they're losing. But it's really easy to move money around to different things and put all of your losses in the teams, keep the profits and the revenue from Soccer United marketing separate. You know, a lot of owners are writing off the losses in the league. How are they counting investments in training facilities and stadiums? Are those put down as losses when realistically those aren't losses? That's the way that the league is able to point and say, hey, we're not making a ton of money. Now, all of that being said, you know, they are still well short of the major revenue streams that we see in other professional sports, both here and abroad, and that's in the television money. So I think that gives the league some leverage. What they're saying to the players is until we see that TV money go up in a couple years, and how much it goes up, they're not sure, we're not going to commit to crazy spending. And the question is going to be, what do the players try to put in as a protection if that revenue does go up drastically? You know, can they put a clause in the CBA that says that the percentage between revenue to how much money is in the salary cap jumps with whatever that percentage goes up in revenue? Do they put in a clause where they can potentially opt out of the CBA if that revenue hits a certain number? Those are the types of things I think the players union is thinking about. But yeah, I mean, I would say in some ways that knowledge gives them a little bit more leverage, but the league still holds the vast majority of leverage in these CBA negotiations. And that's why we have to be ready for incremental change. I should say one of the bigger changes we could see that the players are really fighting for is the elimination of targeted allocation money. They don't love that the league administers that and rules who is eligible for TAM and who's not eligible for TAM. They'd rather just take that $4 million total and put it into the salary cap and let teams use it as they will. The league wants to hold on to TAM. So that's, I think, one of the big points of contention in negotiations right now.
Just for those of us who don't understand why is that leverage for the league? Why is TAM something that they want to keep? Like, what exactly gives them leverage because they have that?
It's control. They can control what teams are doing on their rosters. And basically, when they created TAM, the idea behind it was to improve spots 4 through 8 or 9 on the roster. They didn't want TAM used to give guys already in the league raises. The intention was to improve the level of play in the league, improve the on-field product. And if they didn't essentially trust the general managers and the teams to use that money in the right way. So they said, okay, here's this money, but the conditions are X, Y, and Z, more than the senior maximum budget charge, right? Between that and $1.5 million, or $1 million more than the budget charge. And, you know, you have to use it on players coming from abroad or for a player being bought down as a DP. So they put all these rules on it, and then they were approving and denying TAM for the first year of its existence. They love that control. Any more control that they can exert over the teams, they will. And that's the reason the league loves it. You know, they want to make sure that in their eyes, money is being used properly. Now, the problem with that is for every team, for every market, what's valuable is different. A player in Salt Lake City is going to be different value to a player in Atlanta or LA. And so that's where it starts to become very difficult. And there were some clear inefficiencies with that idea of TAM, including the fact that a lot of teams were taking a $400,000 player from abroad and saying, you know what, we're going to pay you $600 because it makes better budget sense for us, because then we can buy you down with TAM instead of you being a $400,000 player on our roster. If we pay you $200 more and buy you down with TAM, you're $150. That's a market inefficiency. That's bad business for MLS. So I think there will be some changes. I don't think the league is going to win this one, but you know, there is a clause in the CBA called the management clause. It basically gives the league power to change rules as they see fit outside of these CBA negotiations, which is how TAM came about in the first place, about a couple months after the last CBA was agreed. So I wouldn't be surprised if they relinquish some of that control with TAM and then introduce something else that gives them more control to exert onto teams.
How are we still in a place where the league does not trust its general managers and its team presidents to operate a club properly, right? It seems like that we should be moving to a place where the people in those positions know what they're doing.
Or
right?
at the very least, how come, especially someone like yourself, how come we're not in a place where those GMs are leaking that information when those situations don't happen to create a bit more of a groundswell to hopefully push for that change, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we saw some of that. To be fair, I wrote about it last year when Tim Parker got denied a contract. Walker Zimmerman was being denied a contract. CJ Sapong. It wasn't a coincidence that I started to hear about those incidents. GMs were upset. The agents were upset. The players were upset. Everyone was upset. And I think the biggest counter argument you can make is this league wants to get better and it's looking for ways to get better. And, you know, how can you ever get better if you're protecting the worst general managers in the league from themselves? What you want to have happen is there are always going to be teams that fail. That's the way sports work. And if you allow those GMs and teams to fail on their own merits, then they eventually get fired and replaced. And you hope that the next GM is better at his job. And that's how people get better. And the league really isn't allowing that to happen in some ways. Obviously, people are still getting fired and hired and all of that. But, you know, these protections put into place, they're really done more for the control from the league side than they are done to help or hurt other teams. I mean, there's no GM that wants the league looking over their shoulder constantly. And by the way, other leagues have these central offices that help teams, but that's all they do. They assist teams with questions. They help clarify salary budget rules, how a guy can fit under contract. They don't administer decisions about where a player falls on a roster, or they don't involve themselves in negotiations. So this league still has a long way to go in giving autonomy to the teams and the owners. And I think it's going to be a big point of contention, not just in this CBA, but in the next CBA, because they're never going to give up full control at once. And I can promise you, there are the vast majority of teams and general managers that really want to see this happen, that want to see the kind of the reins loosened from MLS HQ in New York.
Wow. So listen, stop snitching unless it's to Paul Tenorio. We're all for that.
Exactly. Exactly.
We got more with Paul when we get back.
Okay, welcome back. We are still here with Paul Tenorio of The Athletic.
That's right, baby.
Now, Paul, I wanted to ask a couple things, but I want to start first with there's been a lot of Liga MX players coming to Major League Soccer. Has this changed?
And Christian doesn't like it.
No, I'm more than happy about it.
Yeah.
We just saw, I don't know if it's confirmed that you had reported about Rodolfo Pizarro possibly going to Miami, that the deal is being sorted out. Has this changed the dynamic of your job, where now all of a sudden you're going to have to call some people, general manager in Mexico, and now it seems like the pool is sort of growing of like it's becoming, MLS is becoming much more global than ever before.
WhatsApp is a beautiful thing, man. It's a beautiful thing, and I'm using it a lot more recently. I'll tell you that much. Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic that's happening, right, between these two leagues that are trying to compete more against each other and capitalize on the strengths of each other. So for Liga MX, obviously, there's a massive audience here in the United States that are watching those teams, loyal to those teams. MLS wants a piece of that pie. On the flip side, MLS is, it's a really strong business. It understands how to produce events, and it's got strong ties to the TV industry here. Mexico wants to capitalize on the things that MLS does well on the business side. So I don't think it's a coincidence that as these leagues study each other more and compete with each other more, we're seeing more interaction between the two. Talking to a bunch of GMs recently for a story I'm writing about this topic, I asked what's been the biggest difference. Well, from the player side of it, you're coming to a league that's very stable in MLS. You know when your paycheck's coming, that it's going to be there on time. You know that your life is going to be much calmer in the United States than it is in Mexico, both because, the fans there, they take things a little bit more seriously. I think the American culture, we don't really, even in the most brazen moments there, we leave celebrities alone pretty much. Even like if you were playing for the Lakers, if you're LeBron and you go out in a club in New York after playing the Knicks, nobody's shouting you down. Tell me if I'm wrong, guys. Maybe that's the wrong team to bring up. But for the most part, there's a calmer culture in the American kind of celebrity culture. So I think it's and also you have to be able to get recognized, right? So I think that that's a big part of it. From the team side of it, I think the biggest difference has been the money that's come into Major League Soccer is different. And as a result, Liga MX has always outspent MLS and continues to outspend MLS. But players that weren't really available to MLS when it was kind of in its last variation of its spending, which was, either spend big money on big names, the Pirlos and the Kakas and the Davi Villas of the world, or you don't spend. Now we're seeing teams looking elsewhere for talent that are more in their prime, and it's really easy to go into Mexico and buy these players for prices that fit that DP model. And so you're seeing transfers for 10 million, 12 million, 8 million for players out of Mexico. It really fits the MLS model. I think a lot talking to GMs also, when they scout these leagues, they believe that successful attacking players in Mexico translate well to this league that's becoming more wide open, where the money is spent, the vast majority of money is spent on the attacking end. And so they makes it easier to project how that player is going to perform in Major League Soccer. Meanwhile, the Mexican teams are counting their money, man, because I think MLS right now is still spending a little bit above market value. And Liga MX teams are not dumb. They're saying, hey, you want to pay 10 million, 15 million for this guy that we re-rate as an $8 million player? Absolutely. Happy to offload him to you. And I think that has a lot to do with it as well.
Now, Liga MX players coming in is absolutely a wonderful thing. Turning a little bit to new teams coming into MLS, the Nashville situation, we heard positive things, and then all of a sudden, we stopped hearing such positive things, and everything's kind of turned.
Yes, they're dealing with a possible. Yeah. Their stadium was supposed to be. Construction was supposed to start.
We hear they're going to start playing at Yankee Stadium. I mean, that's how rough things are going there. Why don't you tell us a little bit about where we are today, and what is the actual picture? What should we really expect? Because there was a report on MLSsoccer.com that said 70% of their ticket sales are season tickets, but now we're hearing they only have 5,000 season tickets. So if that's the case, ain't no one going to be at the stadium besides Atlanta United fans for their home game. What's happening?
Yeah, I think for a while now we've been hearing reports. We've been hearing things from sources that MLS is concerned about Nashville. They're concerned about the performance of ticket sales. They're scared about the readiness of the club for its transition into Major League Soccer. They're just worried that they're not ready for this ramp up that happened rather quickly on one end, and on the other end, they've had some runway to get this right. I think it was 6 or 7 months ago that my colleague Pablo Maro was hearing that there were issues with the stadium in Nashville, and we got denial after denial after denial. And now you flash forward, and there's public back and forth happening between the mayor and the league, who are essentially they're reprimanding publicly the political figures in Nashville for not tearing down a stadium and beginning construction. It's clearly problematic right now, and I think it's essentially become a public negotiation. And the goal here, I think, is to kind of galvanize the people in Nashville to try to support the team and the vote that occurred, or the vote of confidence, certainly from the politicians prior, in order to land a Major League Soccer team in the market and say, hey, look, this is on you guys. The ball's in your court. We're ready to move forward as a league to build, and it's not happening. How that's going to play out, though, is a big question mark. We don't really usually see this. I think it's kind of a late tactic to try to exert pressure on a politician, and it's going to be up to that politician how he handles it. I'm interested to see this drama play out, but I certainly think that it's a red flag for this market, and it's something to keep an eye on, not just in this inaugural season, but kind of how things continue to unfold, because it is concerning. And Major League Soccer hasn't had to deal with this. If you look at the expansion teams that have come in over the last 10 years or so, it's always been a success story. It's always had this great, huge launch. Atlanta, positivity. Orlando, the crowds were amazing to start off with. Minnesota, they're on the field, they were terrible, but off the field, they performed so well. So, this is a new problem for Major League Soccer, where a market that they're going into, doesn't look like it's going to be an instant success off the field.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's funny because I've seen the Nashville. I think it was either the team or the team president or somebody scold the mayor by offering him $19 million to settle this whole issue. So that's
Someone scold us. Listen, Paul, thank you so much for being on. You said you have an article coming out. Everyone can find you on The Athletic. Also, what are your posts, your socials, whatever you want to plug?
Just at Paul Tenorio on Twitter. And guys, I don't know if you're familiar with Mike McGee, but just know that I got a drink with Mike McGee before you guys got a drink with Mike McGee. So I'm still right here above you guys.
good point.
We'll beat you to something.
Thank you, Paul Tenorio, for joining us. We'll be back with more after this.